Oh, there we go, peeps. Are you ready?
Here we go.
Showtime. Special. What's going on, everyone? Mike Murphy, Barracuda here. Jig Squad Live. Also, the Tackle Making Podcast. So super excited for like a in between. So rather than every other week, this is gonna be 3 weeks in a row. And this is the middle. This is the middle one right now. But guys, I'm really excited to be here tonight. This is not a regular Jig Squad Live. This is all about all the stuff that Do It Molds is going to be released. And you see them already. For the people that are live in chat, I appreciate all of you and thank you for being here. And our guest tonight is none other than Brennan Chapman, the product manager, product development, product everything, Mr. Do It Molds himself, Brennan Chapman. And you guys, if you're listening on the podcast platforms later, because you're in the car, you should get on later and watch the video replay versions on YouTube, because you're going to see a lot of juice tonight. There's a lot of goodies. There's a lot of goodies that I have hanging around in front of me. And Brennan's going to have some too. But anyway, Brennan, welcome to Jig Squad Live. So listen, I looked back because I wanted to tell you this. So it was May 10th, everyone. March 10th that Brennan was a guest on Jig Squad Live. Okay. And we were basically talking about things coming out, how things in the industry. It was still early March, right? So it was the start of the year. And during that time, I remember during that show, Brennan says, hey, how about before ICAST, the week before ICAST, why don't we do a show and we could talk about the released products that are coming out at ICAST? And here we are, July 14th, and this is the show. So Brennan, welcome, buddy. I think you have some things to kind of talk about a little bit about Do It and tell people who you are. I kind of introduced you. I don't know what your title is over there anymore. And talk about kind of what the plan or the 2022 plan has been for Do It and introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. No, thanks for having me, Mr. Kuda. No, I appreciate you having me on. I know, like you indicated, back in March, I was on and I indicated that there was some heat coming down the line, and maybe a new fresh breath to Do It that people hadn't seen this side of before. So I'm really excited to talk about some new products that we've got coming out, and hope you guys feel the same, that these are some awesome products that you guys are excited about as excited as we are.
I know I am.
Yeah, for sure. So again, thank you for having me on. Gosh, I don't know where to start. I guess what I do at Do It.
There you go. That's a good start.
Yeah. So I'm the product manager. There really isn't anything that I won't do or don't do. But one of the things that I hold dearly to my heart is product development. So I get to kind of be the gatekeeper to what we do and what we don't develop. So that's starts at our scoping phase, where we decide exactly what it is that we want to design, things that we want to target, segments, categories that we feel we need to go after, and then ultimately coming up with the concepts for those categories that we need to tackle and develop throughout the year. It is about a year-long process for us in most cases to take a product from that scoping phase, where we first identify what it is that we want to do, to actually bringing it to market. So a lot of the products that we're going to talk about, that we're going to fully reveal today, we literally started about last year, this exact same time. So it's a process. We put blood, sweat, and maybe even a little bit of tears into each one of these things. So it's something that I'm really passionate about, and I'm hoping it's something you guys are excited about. So
wait, you're telling me, because I have to throw in my little comments on this. So what's funny is I'm thinking back to March, and it was March 10th is when I had you on the show.
Yeah.
And we were talking about new things coming down the pike. And funny enough, I think that was right before, gosh, what were the last 3 colors that were released? The powder paints. That was right before the powder paints.
Go Time, Raw, and Bruised Gill.
And Bruised Gill, yeah. And that Go Time is fire. Yeah. It is fantastic. And it's funny, there's always this talk, and you guys are probably already talking about new things coming down the pike for the next year and late fall and all that type of stuff. But it's just so interesting how you know, for us, we hear you guys talk in the industry or companies, and like we're always thinking like, oh, this is awesome. We're excited about it coming out. And for you guys are already 2 steps ahead, you know. And
We
why
try
is why is 2022? Let me ask you this, Brennan. Why is 2022 different than 2021 for Do It molds?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess going a couple steps back. So I mean, this is about my 5th and some change year working at Do It, and I've kind of bounced around a little bit within the company. I mean, I've a lot of my responsibilities have remained the same, but I've gotten some new ones, some new opportunities, and one of those is being the new product development guy. So it's not something that I took lightly at all. It's something that I wanted to, I guess, showcase my abilities, but then also, you know, extract some of that talent that some of our other, you know, our other team members had, and kind of push the limits to what Do It could do. So I think Do It, we've been around literally since 1959, which is an ancient, you know, fishing industry company.
Hey,
if I'm being honest, I'm 27, so I mean, Do It, like I'm like a fraction as old as Do It Molds is. So I wanted to extract some of that talent and just kind of push the limits of what this team could do, because it's not just me. I might be the idea guy, I might draw the stuff up, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of other people involved, and I wanted to really push this team to deliver as much as we possibly could, because like I said, this was my first year kind of having the reins to new product development. So we pushed the limits, and you know, as opposed to bringing out some products that are sort of what I would call familiar faces. And what I mean by that is selecting products within our new product development process that are already out there, right? Like we're making something just very similar, or we're taking a really popular shape and offering it again. And I'll be honest, like we would be doing the custom tackle community a disservice if we didn't keep an eye on that stuff and we didn't offer that stuff. Because at the end of the day, like, you know, one of our best selling molds is the 5-inch Yamamoto Senko, which is, you know, licensed through Yamamoto. You know, there's a reason people want to make that stuff, because it works and it's awesome stuff, right?
It's the beard, Chris Hill. You see that, Brennan?
Yeah,
He's like, I'm 30 and he looks older than me.
I get that a lot. I think I'm 27. I might be 26. I don't pay attention anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Every year's the same for me. But where I was going with that is, like, we would be doing the custom tackle community a disservice if we didn't offer them the platform and opportunity to make stuff that's similar to what's out there, whether they want to make it for their own success on the water because they know it works, or because they want to sell it. You get what I'm saying? We got to continue to pursue that stuff. But what we wanted to do this year, what I wanted to do this year, that was much different from anything that we've ever done in the past, is I said, guys, I want to do some stuff that's completely original to Do It. I literally want to make other fishing industry companies look at our stuff and be like, oh God, we want to do what they're doing, as opposed to the other way around. You know what I mean?
So let me ask you something. Do you feel, and it's okay, because I know where my you know, there's two components of, like, you see Matt Luna in chat and some of the other guys that make plastics. Debo started making them. I have some of the stuff, but I'm not there yet where I'm fully making them. I'm getting into it.
Yeah.
The thing is, do you feel, so everyone kind of has a part of the tackle making experience, right? In terms of whether it's jigs or plastics, where do you think it's the hardest to come up with things that are new or tweaked, or maybe have the biggest viewable impact as being different, plastics or the molds?
That's a great question. You know, lead or soft bait, I would say both segments have been, you know, mowed over really good, right? And I don't think that's
it's It's a great description.
That's not a bad thing. That's a challenge for me. It's a challenge for us to innovate. And I love that. I love the challenge. You know, I don't know that there's a difference. I'd say it's 50-50, man. I mean, between the stuff that we currently offer in our hard bait, let me back up. I would say for Do It, between our lead and our soft baits, I would say it is easier for us to pursue new soft bait stuff than it is lead. Lead, okay. We've been in lead since 1959, like I said.
Right.
Soft baits, we joined the game in 2014. That was my first year out of high school. So you get what I'm saying. Like
I understand.
We've been in the game forever, you know, so there's less stuff to pursue in lead for us that's totally new than there is soft baits. So from my perspective, lead is harder than soft baits, but I would say while they're both challenging and fun, soft baits is probably there's more intricacies that go into soft baits that make it maybe harder. So I didn't answer your question at all.
No, generally well, no, but listen, here this is great because Matt, South Jersey fisherman, asked a great question that helps us talk about this a little bit more. So he says, has Do It ever thought about getting into maybe some JDM style soft plastic molds? I think that would be kind of cool. So what a great transition into you know what.
Yeah. So Matt, great call out there. I'm a bait connoisseur. You know, I try to be on the water 4 to 5 nights a week. I fish as much as humanly possible as a guy with a family and a career can possibly fish without losing his family and his career. I push those limits too. So sure. I'm passionate about baits. I collect baits. I'm obsessed, right? I fish a lot. But one thing that I've always admired is Japanese bait design. They pay really close attention to all the intricacies, all the details. Everything kind of works in sync. I think the Japanese, in my opinion, this might not be everybody's opinion, but particularly in soft baits, not necessarily, you know, your hard baits. I think that the Japanese are 3 to 5 years ahead of us at all times, and that's due to pressure. But believe me, I think we're catching up with them when it comes to pressure on our bodies of water. So I think the Japanese pay really close attention to detail and do a fantastic job in finding ways to get bites within their baits.
Interesting. Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, one of the key things this year when I was at the Reigns was being, you know, passionate about Japanese bait design is that I wanted to also have that reflect into our product line this year. And Matt, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with what we're about to show tonight.
All right. So Kay, you want me to show that one or Bougie?
It's up to you, dude.
Let's go Kay. I'm just going to show Kay.
Okay.
All right. Let's do it. Hold on. All right, guys, listen. So we have a little video here, and I don't know. No one's seen this yet, Brennan, have they?
This is it, all exclusive to Jigsquad right here. You guys are getting first crack.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
if you're on the tackle making podcast, you gotta go watch the video on YouTube. All right, guys. So we got a little video. I'm excited for you guys to see this, and there are several this evening, but this is the first one, and then we'll go from there. So this is playing off of what Matt said. Hold on, let me do this. Let me take Matt's comment off first, and then let me go back over to here we go. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. All right, what do you guys think about that? I gotta go back over the comments. So guys, did you guys see that? So here's the thing, Brennan. I have some of these in front of me, right? So guys, I haven't had these for long. These just came the other day because the show was coming with Brennan and I, right? So Brennan's going to talk about these, and Brennan, I'll hold them up periodically. I got this.
Yeah.
But look at the claws on this thing. I'm sorry, guys. Let's do this. This is crazy. I'm gonna let you talk about it, and I'll throw some comments in on a few little features that I think are wild. But go ahead. You can talk about it all you want.
Yeah. So I know this isn't soft bait squad, but I guess tonight, it could
we are tonight. We're the soft bait squad.
No, there's a lot of little things that go into this bait. I guess I'll back up all the way to the beginning. So see if I can find a drawing of like the first katana craw. All of these designs, guys, I mean, it was like weekends worth of drawing and ripping out of the sketchbook and just redoing over and over and over again.
And you have a team of like 20 guys on your drawing team, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's just so many people. So let me try to find one here quick. Nah, it's all right. So this was like probably the third.
Let me make you big here, buddy.
Yeah.
I'll move you over.
This was probably the third concept. After several renditions, this is kind of like the final one, like where I saw the model itself. After I had provided sketches, things like that, and we got a little ways down the line, this was the model that I saw where I'm like, all right, we got something here. Let me clean up the cosmetics of this bait, and assuming it still fishes exactly like it did.
Yeah.
This one, so this bait it is intended to be a trailer for a Ned. I can tell you it also serves as a drop shot. I fished it on a wobble head. It's a shaky head. It's a finesse jig trailer. It's a lot of different things, but really its intention is to be a Ned trailer. It comes in at 3 inches in total length. It's got, I'll start, I guess, all the way at the end of it here. It's got these little tiny ribbon tails on it. And if you watch the video, you can see how much action those things really do provide. So for such a little package like that, it really does make a little commotion underwater. Nothing too aggressive to, push itself out of that finesse category, but it does have, some substantial action for a little finesse bait. Outside of those ribbon tails, it has these, I don't know how well you can see it. You might be able to get the silhouette there, but there's these little ribs on the bulbous claws, and then that little cup inward that the point of the claw does. And what those ribs do is it actually traps little air bubbles. If you do go watch the video over again, if you replay it, you can actually see that these ribs do trap air bubbles, and it kind of promotes it to stand up a little better and stand up longer. The bulbous claws help that as well. But between that little pinch inward, the ribs on the claws, and then just being a bulbous claw in general, it allows that bait to stand up. The next thing it does is when it does hit bottom, and I know this because I've spent a lot of time with all these baits, but this one in particular. When this bait hits bottom, those claws just kind of slowly flail outward. And I mean, without any bias, like just being totally honest, it looks like a crawfish. I mean, it's like the same exact motions that a crawfish has when it's fleeing or when it's just moving around in general and is in a defensive posture.
Brennan, I'm going to tell you something. Like, so it's crazy because the arm of the claw, right, is so thin, and I look like I've been drinking for about 6 hours right now because I can't. Everyone talks about moving home. Let me try it. But that the arm is so thin, and then with that fat little end of the claw, it's so cool, man. And you mentioned the Ned part too, Brennan. Like guys, on that, I mean, there's enough body there, like the Ned. I don't know, man. I'll tell you what, here's another cool thing, Brennan, that you're probably going to talk about this, but I kind of like, there's a little, it's hard to see, guys. If I'll turn it a little bit, but you could see that there's a slight recession in the top and the bottom as well, that your Ned hook will kind of be able to nestle in. And the body part, this physical middle part, rather than the tail end, is a little bit thicker. I don't know, man. It's just, there's a lot of little dangling appendages on this thing. But it's you made the comment earlier, it's not too much. No, it isn't too much. No, I don't know. It's different. I like those claws. I haven't seen anything like that yet.
Yeah, it's not too much, but it's enough that it's not just a TRD or a Midwest finesse. It's not just a shortened up stick bait, you know. It really does have a lot of action packed into such a small bait. Like you mentioned, it does widen out, and we strategically did that so it fits. If you want to fish this on an exposed hook, there's plenty of gap. And at the same time, if you want to fish this on like our Weedless Midwest finesse rig, it's really carefully calculated to where you have plenty of gap still if you want to fish that on an EWG, like a Weedless rig. Like Kuda mentioned, it does have a hook slot built into it, and both sides of this bait are actually identically symmetrical. So if you go to dual inject this, it doesn't matter which side color you pick. I mean, it's the exact same bait either way, which I find handy myself, and I'm sure a lot of people will too.
And those middle antennas, I just want to say too, I just noticed as I was holding the thing, guys, I haven't had these for that long. I literally got them within the last 2-3 days. The middle antennas, the long ones, they at the end have a slight little curl in as well. Not the claw. I'm not talking about the claws. The claws have that little protruding part at the end, but the antennas at the end kind of curl in a little bit, but not down. So basically it's I would say it's like parallel with the body of the bait as opposed to hooking down or up. So that kind of reinforces what Brennan's saying about it's equally symmetrical on both sides. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah, and that hook slot's intended to fit a 2/0 through size 1 hook. Pretty much universally. So I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of hook. Let's say you've got a jig that you didn't pour yourself, but you want to use on this, it's gonna fit it. So if you're pouring a jig, our Weedless Midwest Finesse by Do It and our Midwest Finesse size 1 through 2/0 are going to fit that hook slot perfectly.
And the 2/0, yeah, we'll get to that one next. Matt, Matt also said, and you probably know this, Brennan, because you're a JDM guy, the OSP Olive Craw vibes or G-Crack Bellows Craw. Yeah, to an extent, right? And I don't know that bait exactly, but if you're saying so, Matt, I believe it.
I know what you're talking about, Matt, and I appreciate your knowledge on JDM design. That's cool.
That's good.
You're absolutely right. The JDM stuff, you can pretty much go ahead and tack on an extra 20% just because of the fact that it's from Japan, and there is some extra cost associated with getting it here, which is unfortunate for us guys that like to fish them, and they do make some great stuff. But that's where some of this stuff comes along. Like I said, a lot of this was inspired by Japanese bait design. So I'm excited to make it available to you guys.
Yeah. So one thing, go ahead, Brennan, go ahead.
No, I was just going to point out just like 2 more things.
Sure. Features.
One, I guess this drawing probably describes it better than what I can show you here, just because I got a crappy camera, I guess. But there's some texture along that what would be the shell of the crawfish, as you can see there. So you can see there's like these little bulbous, half spheres, I guess you could call them, all over the shell of both sides of this. And then as well, there's some raised ridges that kind of curve along with the bait that look like a crawfish shell. And then lastly, these little legs, although I know they don't look like much, I'm talking about this right here. When this bait hits the bottom, these little legs flail out and they just kind of undulate with the water. And it's pretty cool. So literally every single, I don't mean to sound corny. I know you hear it all the time when it comes to bait design, but actually every little, detail on this bait does have a purpose, and it all works in sync with one another. And it's a phenomenal bait. I mean, we've caught a lot of fish on them, and we're excited about it.
All right. So Brennan, a couple more questions that I have on that. So one, how many cavities in the mold for that, right? Do you know how many are in there?
Yeah, I want to tell you this is 4 or 5. Let me pull it up.
Nice. Okay, that's good. That's good.
So this bait is in our ESXL line of soft bait molds. So it's a sand cast mold at 89.50, and this mold itself is going to have 5 cavities.
Whoa, hold on. Slow down there, bro. I got to look at my own light. You're saying this mold is sand cast?
That was shot out of a CNC prototype.
I was going to say, I'm like, dude, this looks so smooth. I go,
no, but honestly, so we're wrapping up our production on these right now. I can tell you, if you're familiar with, who makes it? I don't know if it's Depths or who it is, but the cover scat.
Okay. Yeah.
The fish arrow poop stick. If you're familiar with any of these baits that have that texture on them, or even any of the Berkeley Max scent baits, how they've got that matted finish.
Yeah.
Imagine this bait with that matted finish. It looks phenomenal. I'll be totally honest with you. I'm actually more impressed with the sand cast version of these than I am the CNC. I will tell you, it's not by any means like, not going to happen, I guess, that we're going to have a CNC version of all of these at some point. We likely will. But what I can tell you is that the Essential Series version is lights out. I mean, it looks phenomenal. So I think people that do buy the Essential Series version are going to be wowed with what they see. It looks very realistic.
It's funny, the bait, the one particular bait, and like I said, I'm getting into the soft plastic making end of everything. The one bait that was so phenomenal to me, and guys, listen, there's a lot of good people in chat, but I even think if Matt's still in here, Matt Luna, if you guys check out Matt Luna's YouTube page, he actually did a video doing some comparisons between the CNC machine plastic and then with the Essential Series, which are sand cast molds, and you're going to get some of that texture. And to be honest with you, I'm just going to tell you my own opinion on this. And I'm not a plastic bait maker. I'm trying to become one, right? I used to always think that I like the CNC stuff because that's what was out there until one particular mold. And that was the Slick Shiner mold by Do It Molds. And that was part of their Essential Series. And it's like a 3 3/4 size swim bait, plastic swim bait, paddle-tailed swim bait. And it is lights out one of the best paddle tail swim baits I've ever used. And I love it that much. And the texture on it is just adds that texture on it. Looks so awesome. All of a sudden now I kind of almost prefer it more, where I like the way it looks. And so there are so many unique features on that Katana Craw that I think it's kind of meant for that sand cast, because I don't think you're really going to notice that much of a difference. But anyway, it is super cool, and I'm happy we were able to kind of spotlight that a little bit. Look at Matt saying the Slick Shiner is legit. I think, what is it, Brennan? It's like 3 3/4. It's just
the Slick Shiner is 3.5 inches, and yeah, Matt's whacked him on that. He knows what he's talking about there.
Matt knows what he's talking about, and like I said, Matt's got a great video out. So if you see him on YouTube, Matt Luna,
got lots of great videos out.
He has a lot of great videos, especially for the bait makers, right? He's got a lot of tournament stuff, a lot of fishing, but I'm a bait guy. So I like all of Matt's stuff for that. So, okay, so that's that. And so, all right, so let's go. So we mentioned earlier, we might as well, because we talked about hook slots and you made reference to the Katana Craw. See, this is how I could actually bring things together, even though I could just talk forever. You made mention of size 1 in the Midwest Finesse all the way up to like 2-aught. So in the Weedless Midwest Finesse, there are some new things coming, right?
There sure
You want to talk about that one next? Should we do a video?
Sure, yeah.
All right, let's go. We got another video, folks. Let me see if I could do this right. All right, you guys ready? Video number 2. Grab your popcorn. Welcome to Jig Squad. ICAST special with Do It Molds.
Whoa, look at that.
There we go, folks. Showtime.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit of a difference here.
Yeah, it just got bigger.
It just got bigger.
It got bigger in hook sizes and weight. So the Weedless Midwest Finesse was probably one of our, no, not probably, without a doubt, one of our most popular molds we've ever released. You know, kind of capturing that trend on you know, finesse baits, Neds specifically. But one of the things that the market really lacked and was failing to catch up with was the demand for a weedless version of a Ned. So that's what we did last year, was 1/16 through a 1/4 ounce weedless Ned. And what we did was collaborate with Victory Hooks to create a size 1 weedless hook. Now, before we get to the Magnum version, which is coming this year here in just a couple days, the video that you just saw, what we did too with Victory Hooks was develop a 1/0 hook for the existing Weedless Midwest Finesse. So for that 1/16 through 1/4 ounce Weedless Midwest Finesse, there's now a 1/0 that's not only longer, but it's a little bit heavier diameter. It's not too heavy where you still can't set the hook with 8-pound test, but it is heavy enough that you can set the hook with a little bit beefier rod or a little bit heavier line. So we feel like that's a big win, to have a 1/0 version available for that mold too. So as for the Magnum Weedless Midwest Finesse that, you know, Kuda just held up, this one's going to go from 5/16 to 5/8. So it gets big. It's also a little bit bigger diameter than what you're probably used to if you have our current Midwest Finesse mold or Weedless Midwest Finesse mold. So it's a bigger diameter head. You're also going to get a bigger hook. So again, we collaborated with Victory Hooks to do a 2/0 through 4/0 hook for that. And that hook is phenomenal, guys. I can tell you, it's an unbelievable hook. Starting at that 2/0 size, I mean, it's the perfect diameter. If you want to use 12-pound test, you can still get away with it. It's all casting rod friendly. So if you want to set the hook with a medium heavy rod, you're not going to bend your hook out. And then that 4/0 size is, I guess I would say it's a similar diameter to like if you're familiar with like a Superline EWG by Gamakatsu, really similar diameter to that. So whether you're fishing with this a creature bait, a craw imitating bait, a Senko, you know, any stick bait, or a shaky head worm, it's really got you covered, from 5/16 to 5/8. So if you're ledge fishing, if you're fishing brush, I've punched it with success. It's a pretty sweet head, and it's very, you know, universal application wise. You can do a lot of different stuff with it.
All right, so this is going to be my comment on the larger sizes. So I think what the larger sizes have done for me is that it's allowed me to think about a new, not an entirely new fishing style, but well, a new way of fishing some different baits. So what I mean by that is I've taken some of the Midwest finesse heads and I've gone to the ponds and I have fished weed lines or in the weeds a little bit. And basically what I've done is I've gone and I've thrown creature baits that I normally would be Texas rigging or pegging, even fishing from shore. You wouldn't catch me throwing a creature bait on a jig in a pond in the Chicago area with weeds to save your life. But I could do that with the Midwest finesse. And it's an entirely new way of thinking. I'm going to throw one more out there and fishing with Gramps. I didn't see him in chat, but he'll be around or in replay later. But Gramps, he heard me say one time what else I've done with these. And I think that this is going to allow me to fish a stupid tube, right? Fish a stupid tube in ponds, in weeds, and in grass or around grass, because I don't know if I'd be punching per se with it or sparse grass. This I've thrown stupid tubes on the 1/0, or excuse me, on the size 1. I haven't used the 1/0 hooks yet. I've only used the 2/0, 3/0, and 4/0 hooks. But to have that ability to use this as like a stupid tube, you'd have to play around and see whether you like it. I personally, I love it for a stupid tube mold. And you want to know why? The only reason is because I don't have the stupid tube mold to make it. So I just said, well, I'm going to start doing it with the Weedless Midwest finesse. And I think it's a great, oh my God, on the fly tackle, almost to the south side, time to crash the stream. Yeah, right. I know, buddy. So he on the fly, Brian's going to be in town with his son this weekend, not too far from me. So I think they have a baseball tournament, but those are just some other ways to fish it. So it's funny because a lot of guys are kind of like, well, I don't know if I'm going to use it for larger sizes. I really think that for me, it's allowed me to use that bait and fish a different way in areas where I wouldn't normally fish it. And to be honest with you, if I'm fishing rocks or somewhere else, I'm not throwing the Weedless Midwest finesse. I have an exposed hook, but I like the idea of being able to do that. Let's see. What does Brian Schmidt say? 3/16 Pro mold for the Midwest finesse would be helpful too.
It would. 3/16.
Yeah.
Noted, Brian. Noted. I pay attention. I fish them too. It would be nice to pour a lot of them at once. So keep your eyes out.
So there was a question earlier, and this is not the Midwest finesse, but I'm going to ask it anyway because Ballin 21 says, is there ever a chance that Do It would be making their own melting pots? Have you guys ever talked about anything like that, or is that just kind of?
Oh, yeah. A while ago, yeah. I don't know that now's the good time, but yeah.
Lee has got it locked up for now.
Yeah.
The Lee melting pots.
I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Very well. Very well. So, I mean, I don't know, guys. I personally think, there's going to be guys that aren't going to want to fish the Weedless Midwest finesse because maybe they don't fish at Weedless. But I will say what people need to do is start thinking about it different is, I'll just call it how I see it. Like, I think we have to start thinking about it as a largemouth bait and fish and think of it different of what we always have known a Ned rig to be. Don't get me wrong. There's guys that are going to be throwing big 6+ inch, Senko style baits on this or other types of worms. And that hook is stout. I love it, dude.
And you know what? I mean, just kind of paralleling off of that. I mean, that's with any category in baits is it starts off intended for one application or even one species, and it snowballs and it widens out and it becomes more friendly for more things. The Ned rig's no different. This bait serves as a shaky head. It serves as almost like a rugby head or I guess sort of a football head. Like if you wanted to drag it through stuff and remain weedless, once it gets heavier, it becomes more friendly for more things. It could be a swim bait head too. I've caught swim bait fish doing this. And
Sure.
Some of those heavier sizes, just rigging a swim bait on it. Weedless. Could it be more weedless, for coming through grass and things like that? Absolutely. But it it serves a lot of different purposes. And I will just say the dealer orders, you know, amongst our dealer network, all of our dealers, that Weedless Midwest Finesse is already on fire. The Magnum version, that is. So we've seen a really positive response from it, and we're pretty pumped about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what else people do with it. I'm not a big shaky head guy. But like I said, I mean, my contribution to the new Weedless Midwest Finesse is to talk about it as a stupid tube.
It
And
works great for that too. I've caught fish on that too.
and if you're not a tube fisherman, you should be. And you know, it's funny. I kind of laughed, Brennan, because for me, I used to, you know, over the years, in the last 20 years, we were always 3.5-inch tube fishermen, right? That's what we fished on the Great Lakes.
Sure.
And in the last X number of years, we've
Now
moved
it's
down.
2.75 or
Right,
3. Yeah.
right. So now we've moved down in size, and so I have all these fantastic old Schubert's tubes,
Yep.
or whatever. Pick your favorite brand, right? 3.5-inch tubes, and I have all these tubes. And I go, oh my god, these. I pulled out my old 3.5-inch tube box, and I started putting these suckers on there, and I go, oh my gosh.
Yep.
I said, it was like a new mold comes out, and I have a new arsenal of baits already to use with them for other strategies. And I plan on using them for largemouth. And so JT Hickman, Fishing with Grams, he'd be excited to hear me say that tonight. So, and when he hears this on replay, he's gonna laugh because he knows
It's pretty cool what that. It's funny you mentioned the stupid tube thing, because that's like literally, like myself personally. You know, when we develop baits, like I have, just like you, Kuda, you have your own things that you want to do with it, but then there's like an intended purpose that you know, masses are probably going to use it for. I would say the masses are going to use this for a Magnum Ned. You know, they're going to put a stick bait on the back, whatever. Shaky
6-inch, larger.
Who knows? And that's fantastic. But I myself, like you, I fish a lot of tubes. It's one of the most you know, overlooked old school techniques that still catches them as good as it did, you know, before I was born. So I fish a lot of tubes. I fish a lot of stupid tubes. That's one of the first things I did with it. It's one of the first things that I tested, you know, in our tank when we first got the first prototype was stupid tube rigged it. And it's pretty cool what it does to a tube. It actually makes it stand up similar to a Ned rig.
Yes.
And you can get that big tube profile. It's pretty sweet. And I've caught a lot of fish doing it. So I hope people catch on to that too, using it as a stupid tube rig.
I think it just helps everyone diversify what they do a little bit. And look at, like, you hear Matt and some of the other people saying in chat, like, that I use this thing, you know, they're saying I use this thing all the time. You know, and look at, there's Chris talking about the Canadian smallmouth love 3.5-inch tubes. Yeah, but Chris, all you Canadian guys are doing your best to fish for largemouth. It's like the secret fish up there.
And their fish see like 2 baits a year. And it's probably all Chris.
It's all Chris, it's all you and your bucktail jigs you tie, buddy. Oh gosh. Yeah, so that's another bait. Excited to see. So we got the katana, we have the Weedless Midwest Finesse. Let's do another. You want to do another plastic? You want to do the you want to do boot? Let's do what's the name of this next one? The bougie, is it bougie bug?
Bushy Beetle.
The Bushy Beetle.
And
all right,
Bushy
guys.
Warrior in Japanese.
All right, guys. Are you ready? I made this warrior video. No, I didn't make this video, guys. Dual Molds put this together. I got to figure out which one. Make sure I get the that's that. Oh yeah, here we go. All right, guys. Another another premiere showing on Jig Squad Live. So everyone on the Tackle Making podcast, please head over to the replay on YouTube. I'm sorry, but this is a special show and we're going to show this beetle. Thank you.
Boom.
There we go. Oh, now this is, guys, this is something. This is something. I'm like, at first, I'm like, oh, that looks great. And then I felt these tails and how thin they are.
Yeah.
They're ridiculously thin. But go ahead, Brennan. Talk about this bait.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
For sure. Yeah. So what I guess I'm a jig fisherman and I'm a flipper. Like if I can go out and fish a tournament or just fun fish, and if I can catch them one way and it's the way I choose, it's either flipping or flipping a jig or flipping a Texas rig with a standalone creature bait. And I'm not trying to put my company to shame. The place that pays my bills keeps my lights on, but looking at our catalog, looking on our website, if I can look in our catalog, look at our website and not see a creature bait that I can make that I myself am not excited to make, that's a problem to me. So when I guess I got the reins to this new product development thing, when I got the keys to it, I wanted to see, how fast this thing could go and how we could push the limits. So, like I said, I'm a jig fisherman, I'm a flipper, and I wanted to make a creature bait that was completely unique to do it. Something that, you could look at and not say like, oh, that looks just like a fill in the blank. Something that was unique to us. So, this is the Bushy Beetle. It's 4.2 inches long. It's really slender. So it does kind of taper in width here towards the center where your hook would come through. So it holds your hook in there really great. Like it's not going to continuously slip down, although it is slender. And we wanted it slender so it would come through cover really nicely. It's all smooth edges on this body section. These appendages fold over really easily and do move around a lot, especially when it makes bottom contact. So it just kind of slips and slides through stuff really easily. And then these tails, the claw portion has these raised edges that really catch water and undulate. They oscillate really wide. So with this outer edge at that angle that it is, it actually encourages those tails to come out wide. So when it's coming down, it looks something like that. It's a pretty wide stance, but like Mike indicated, because that's so thin, because these are so thin, when you shoot these in whatever color you choose, and maybe this isn't the best example because it's a darker color. Let me try to find one that's maybe, I'll show you later, but when you shoot this in like a green pumpkin or something that's maybe not so opaque like this color, kind of like what Mike has there, these tails, I don't want to say they disappear, but they become way more translucent because there's such little material there. So while this is a big profile, the body itself, these tails are not that intrusive. So it's a big bite friendly bait. Like, believe me, I caught a lot of big fish on this. Our team's caught a lot of big fish on this in development and just playing around and testing it. But because that's so thin, you can shoot that in a color and it almost, I don't want to say disappears, but it's not as noticeable. So you get that kick, you get that thump, you get that disturbance in the water. You get a hold of their lateral line, they know it's there, but it's not this super intrusive profile. So you're not just limiting yourself to only getting a handful of bites a day, but you do get bigger bites too. So
what's the length of it? 4 inches, Brennan?
4.2 inches. So it's a I don't want to say a big creature bait, but it's definitely at the upper end of the spectrum in terms of size of a creature bait.
Guys, okay, so here's a couple comments from me on this after having this in front of me. Okay, so Brennan just said, interesting enough, and I'll show it on the back end of a jig a little bit later. We'll wait for that jig to show you that. So at first I looked at it and I go, wow, that's a big bait, right? But the thing is, when I touch the tails on these things, I almost fell over. I go, oh my gosh. I'm like, these things, the actions of these in the water is going to be, so if this is a 4-inch bait, I would venture to say that just under 2 inches of it is tail. It's the 50% point of the body is just right here. The 50% point is about literally just a hair up. So 40% of this bait, almost, I say about 40% of that bait is tails. The reason I'm bringing this up is because not only are you going to get flapping action, I want to see it in the water again and more, because I feel like not only is it going to do flapping action, it's going to undulate like wave-like a little bit because of the length of it. Those tails are so thin. I am so excited to watch that thing drop in the water. And I'm not even excited about it on the bottom. I'm excited about that thing on the drop.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where I want to see this thing shine.
Yeah, it creates a ton of drag. And I see a comment. I see a bunch of good comments here, but I see Brian Schmidt made the comment, big blur, big thump. That's key. Big fish are big for a reason. They're smart. Anytime you can present them something where they know it's there, but they can't get the best look at it, you're going to have a better chance at catching that fish, hands down. And this bait right here might outline the point that I'm trying to make a little bit better. Maybe not. I got terrible lighting in here, but those tails really sort of disappear much better than they do a lot of baits. Like if you look at the body of this bait, you can see the body, no problem. You get that profile, no problem. You see that silhouette, no problem. But those tails disappear a little bit better. And that was something I really wanted in a creature bait, is something that created that disturbance, that silhouette still, but it didn't stand out like a sore thumb. And I think that's where a lot of creature baits miss. You can still get a lot of big bites on them, no doubt, but anytime you can trick their senses, both visually and with their lateral line, I think you win more often. And I think that's what this bait does.
Yeah. So here's another comment. I'll just highlight a few in chat. So Andrew says, good flipping.
Good call,
yeah. Good call. Matt says he really likes the appendages. So this is, Brian, great design. So this is what I'm going to say about these appendages, which I didn't notice at first, and I did when you were just talking. This reminds me of a little bit of the katana craw, and I don't know if it does. I have to go back and look. But guys, if you see this tentacle here, right? I'm sorry. This tentacle here, it thickens up in the middle, and then as it comes back to the body, it thins up again. It just allows these things to just wiggle in the water just so much more. Even just the slightest movement, it's just how that moves. I mean, oh, wow. It's just different, And I think that was the thing. Tell me the thinking besides that when you talk about JDM stuff again, Brennan, when it comes to this bait, because this is a bigger bait.
Yeah, it is. And like kind of what I was alluding to with that katana craw is I think the Japanese, it's funny because the Japanese, like they love our baits and we love theirs. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, if there's a Gucci bag available in China, they freak out. If there's some Chinese sweatshirt that people can get here, they freak out, whatever. It's kind of the same concept, but I think the Japanese, what I admire most about them is there's nothing on their baits that don't serve a purpose, if that makes sense. So everything that's on there is on there for a reason. It's not just a filler, which I think we get a lot of times in our baits here in America.
Sure.
Unfortunately, is that it's just to take up real estate. It's just to fill a space in the bait. It's just a thing that's there. So it fills a void in the profile itself. And I think that's something that the Japanese bait designers take note of and pay really close attention to detail on. So that's something that we did too. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, are these appendages here to fill a void? Yes, but what they do is provide some action still, and kind of fill out that profile. So if it's a bluegill coming through the water, which is I believe in most cases what people are going to use this for is panfish imitating. Shoot this in a white bait, it's a shad, whatever. But It fills out that profile a little bit better. And then also what it does is it does have some action, but what it doesn't do, which I think is the most important, is it's not so rigid that when you go to flip this thing through some cover, it's not going to slow that bait down. It's not going to create friction against cover, and it's going to fold over and come right through. And it does. I flip this bait a lot. I've had this, we've had our prototype done, the final version of this bait done for several months now. Our team has spent a lot of time on the water with it, caught a lot of big fish on it. You're going to see some pictures on social media posted of this bait coming really soon. And I can tell you, these aren't staged photos. These are legit. We caught some giants using this bait, and the next bait we're going to show you, I think, and we're thrilled with it. I think people are going to be excited to make this one.
Super cool. I mean, you know what the thing is? It's just because it's something different, and I'm trying to allude back to what you talked about earlier, Brennan, where you're like, yeah, like our goal was like to do stuff different for 2022. And I remember you saying that, like even going back to March when I had you on the show before, I remember you saying that. And then, like when we talk about like for, the ambassador program and stuff like that, and people on our team, like, we have these conversations, but like you don't really know what those things are going to be. Right.
Yeah,
And
I know. And I wish I could have told you more, live on the show, but I had to keep this stuff a secret. But I wasn't kidding when I said, we were bringing some heat this year, and that people, I think, are going to see a whole new Do It, and a side of Do It that people are going to, like, people are going to be, hopefully, at least that was my thought going into this, is that we're going to show people, that Do It we've got the talent, we've got the resources to do stuff our own way. And we don't need to rely on, other shapes that are out there, that people are excited and wanting to make. We can make our own, and we can create our own excitement. And it starts with just a solid design, that people fall in love with, like what we have. So I'm hoping that's what happens so far, based on what I'm seeing, response to social media and our dealer network. It's been just that.
So one comment about those two plastic baits, because I don't think those are the only two that we're highlighting here. The one I just want to say, guys, if you're not a plastic bait maker, the one thing that you are going to see is you're going to see bait makers, the smaller bait makers, and maybe larger, that have companies. They're going to start putting these out, right? So just as much as you saw the, some of the, I'll just generically say some of the certain craw style baits, paddle tailed craw baits that you've seen come out over the last 2 years, where you've seen a lot of companies, smaller companies, put these out as part of their builds. You're going to start seeing these too. So even if you aren't a plastic bait maker, what you should do is just make sure you network here, or when you see posts go up or comments, or heck, even message me and I'll tell you about some of the people that make plastic baits as well as jigs, and that I know that do sell plastic baits, and I'll put you in touch with some of the right people to try and purchase some of those baits, because maybe you don't want to go and start making the plastic baits and that's not your thing, but these are going to start showing up out there, right? That's the point. And so you'll be able to get your hands on some of them as well. And I really just think it's something cool and different, right? So, but there you go. So that's that. So we got one more, buddy.
Let's go.
And we're going to talk for a while about this one, because
it's Jigsquad.
I know I like that Weedless Midwest Finesse, but this is the juice coming here, guys.
This is the heat. Let's go.
All right. You guys ready? So
Boom.
Kaboom. I know my goofy, I don't know what it is. All I'm going to say is you guys see in the show title, and I'll show another one too. Brennan, just go ahead. I'll jump in. Talk about this. This is go ahead and introduce it.
All right, I can go on for an hour, so you interrupt.
We're gonna roll because look at this. This brought Skimpy out on this one. Trippy Sticks is Larry Hadley. All the jig makers are shouting out right now because they know what this is. This is the juice.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start from like the very beginning of this. So myself being selfish here, I'm like I alluded to in the beginning, like I love flipping, I love jig fishing, and I love taking a simple approach to anything I do on the water. So I'm a Mississippi River rat, through and through. My favorite thing to do on the river is fish a jig, whether it's flipping a jig. The Mississippi River is literally home of the swim jig. It's where it was created. It's where it was born. It's where it's going to die. The swim jig. So, flipping a jig, swimming a jig, flipping an undercut bank, whatever the case may be. The Mississippi River is like the breeding grounds of a swim jig, like I said, and just the perfect place to develop a jig, in my opinion. I don't know if there's a better place on earth to develop a jig. So again, me being selfish, I wanted to have a jig that I could take to the water and lock in my hands all day long and not have to switch between an Arky, a football, a swim jig. I just wanted one jig, dude. I wanted one jig that I could have tied on 3 different rods and a couple different sizes and just go fishing and not have to dink with switching stuff up when I get around a grass bed, when I get around some rock, when I want to flip, wood on a slough, whatever the case may be. I wanted one jig in a couple different sizes that I could just go fishing and not worry about those, it doesn't excel here or it's not efficient here, whatever the case may be. Just one jig, one shape. What this hybrid grass jig, I think, does best is capture all of the elements, all the peak elements of every single jig. So when you cast this thing out, let's say, you cast up to the bank and there's a grass mat and it's comes up, it's 6 foot of weeds. And then there's about 3 feet, right? That is fishable water before you get buried in the jig or in the grass. I'm sorry. Jigs are on my mind. So let's say you want to swim it back to the boat a little bit, get it over that grass bed, whatever the case may be. And then you want to kill it because there's some wood just beyond the bank past that grass and you want to jig it through some wood. This thing will literally come through anything. So, I mean, we designed it so it's balanced to where it'll swim through cover just fine. It'll swim through grass. When this thing tracks through the water, it's perfectly straight. Comes through the water perfectly straight. When you kill it and you want to fish on the bottom or you just want to pitch it out and drag it back, it stands up on the bottom. Okay. And it's got a 5-degree angle from from where that head rests on the bottom to where that hook lies. When your bait's hitting the bottom, it stands at a 5-degree angle. So that hook's always encouraged to stand up, not much, but just a little bit. So that's going to help your hook up. And it does, believe me. That weed guard is angled just right. So where it acts as a swim jig, but you can flip it too. It's not going to get hung up easily. So if it's bombing straight down and it gets, it rubs up against something, it's going to come through just fine. It's got big recessed eye cavities, and this is important to me, mainly for that swim jig element. But where I think a lot of companies miss is on their bottom contact jigs, they don't put eyes on their stuff. And in my opinion, eyes are never going to hurt you. They're literally only going to help you. Anytime you can provide more realism or extra color, extra flash, whatever the case may be, it's never going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. So why not have eyes on a bottom contact jig? I guess I've never understood why, even football jigs, why they couldn't put an eye, and some do, not many, but some do. Mm-hmm. So eyes are only going to help you. While we did put those eyes in there, it isn't going to create a bunch of opportunity for those weeds to get caught. So by the time you put your 3D eye in there, it really does fill out that void nicely to where there's no like big edges where it's going to get caught. And that was important to me too, because a good swim jig, in my opinion, doesn't have these massive recessed eyes that is going to cause, more opportunity for weeds, whatever, to get caught in. And then lastly, that it does have a recessed eye. So it's not totally embedded, but it's pretty well embedded. It's going to protect that from rock when you do drag it back. So that line tie is encapsulated. And
I actually, Brennan, hold on. Let me
Sure.
throw a comment out there. Guys, I can't believe I didn't realize this until we're talking about this. I'll try and show it this way. And I apologize, guys. It is what it is. But I cannot believe how it doesn't look. That's a big eye, not to be sticking out more on that jig. That's I love it.
It's
That's
tucked
great.
in there. Yeah.
It is really, and actually, yeah, it is phenomenal. It's wow. I'm shocked that it doesn't stick out more now that you say that. That's great. And you said the stand-up part, Brennan, there's a slight flattened part on the bottom of this as well, yes?
Yep, there sure is. So
Not a lot, but it's
yeah.
hard to show with the black one.
Yep, and that flattened part is great and all, but really what allows that to stand up when it does rest on bottom is how that jig is balanced, where that hook is placed, where all the weight is dispersed in that jig. So when it falls, it'll bomb straight down, right? But when it falls and it hits bottom, it's going to stand up. When you drag that back to the boat or back to the bank, it's gonna remain standing up. And then, one other thing about that recessed eye is I talked about how, it's going to protect you from rock, from weeds, whatever. But if you look at it at the front angle, it's not entirely encapsulated, but it's encapsulated enough that you're not going to get a bunch of weeds balled up there. If you do choose to drag this through grass or swim it over top of grass, you get caught in the grass and you go to rip it out. You're not going to have a bunch of grass balled up right here that you commonly do on like, let's say, if you did want to use an Archie and you came across a grass bed and you didn't want to retie and you pitch it in there, probably going to get grass. If you get caught in that grass for just a couple seconds, if it's too heavy, especially, you got to rip it out, probably still going to have grass there. This does not. So I don't know. I think for us, one thing that we wanted with this jig, plain and simple, was just utility. Like I said, one jig that you could leave tied on all day long, come across any scenario, no matter where you're at, and feel whatever you're doing, your presentation's still effective. You're still coming through whatever cover efficiently. Like this is it, this is the jig. So do we have jigs in our lineup that are similar? Absolutely. But that was literally the point, is we wanted all the similarities. We wanted, we lined them all up and we took the best of everything and wanted to make one jig that had the best of everything. And this is what we came up with. And we're really happy with it.
Trippy's in chat. So I didn't say much the other day because I know you and I kind of exchanged some messages back and forth. And playing off that, Brennan, Trippy had asked me, he says, Murph, it looks like the poison. I think, Trippy, was that you? I'm not sure if it was or not. I thought it might have been Trippy. If not, I apologize, Trippy. But it said, hey, it looks kind of like the poison head. I go, oh no, it's more than just the poison head. And so there are overall head size looks similar in certain ways, but there are some unique things that I want to talk about with this jig. Okay. And this is where Kuda comes in and starts talking about different things. One, I didn't realize that Trippy, okay. See, I'm getting older, buddy. I lose my mind. So one thing I want to say is that I didn't realize is that how recessed those eyes are. And you guys know, when you see me post my own jigs, I like to maximize and upsize the eyes as much as humanly possible. And I like to do that. So that I like. I'm going to tell you truthfully, I have these in my hands now, and I feel, one, I was really excited about this jig, and I'm going to save the reason I'm most excited about it for last. But I was really excited about this jig. But there was one thing that I was like, I don't know about that. And I get the fit and function of the design. But at first, I wasn't totally excited about it. And I wasn't excited about that there was somewhat of a recessed eye, right? I thought, I don't need that recessed eye stuff. But here's what I'll say. And the reason I always say that is selfish from a jig designer's end. I'm like, I want to be able to put heat shrink on the eyes so I don't get pain in them. But here, I just want to solve the problem right off the bat for you. One, I didn't paint these jigs. These are from the good people.
I may or may not have painted those.
It might have been a Brennan Chapman thing, right? So I would say that 75% of the jig eye is still visible. And I know already that I can make a slight modification to my pieces of heat shrink and do a cut on the edge of it with a small scissors and then slide it over the eye. And I am still going to get that eyelet fully covered. So I was excited when I had it in my hand and I saw that, because at first I was like, I love this jig. And I'm going to tell you why in a sec. But that one thing, I was like, that's the only critique I think that I could say about this. And I have a comment about this diversity in terms of the jigs we use sometimes. Everyone talks about certain styles are better for wood. And this is how I think about jigs. This is the truth, right? I think that I'm fishing rocks in the Great Lakes or moving baits. It's always exposed, right? Like I don't mind that. I'm a big fan of ball heads. I can make a ball head jig. I wish I could have the accent of Gerald Swindle, because he talks about ball heads and what you could do with them. But I could fish a ball head in tons of different ways. And the reason is because that's what I always use. And that's what I taught myself how to get through on the river systems and things like that. But there's obviously better technique, better jig designs for getting through different types of structure and cover. But I've always been able to fit and function, get by with a ball head jig in 90% of the situations. And I say this because that's the reason why I appreciate this jig, is that it was designed around the fact that you're able to do a couple different things with it, which is what I like. If I go out with my buddies and I'm going in their boat, right, and I'm bringing 5 rods with, I'm not bringing 15 rods with. I want to be able to use a couple of rods for a couple different things if I have to. Stick to my primers, what I think I'm going to use. If it's a pick-me-up tournament on a Wednesday night, right, I want to be able to use it for what I think it's going to be. I'm going to use it for and switch. The grass jig, guys, I'm telling you, this is why I love this jig. And I'm going to say it. I love this jig because Kuda is going to pour these jigs sometimes without the weed guard. And I'm telling you something, guys. You guys could look in the image. I'll put it up against my face a little bit, and you see those hook keepers. Guys, listen, we have spent, all of us, every jig designer out there, we have spent our time over the last 3 to 5 years infatuated with wire keepers. Now the big fad is screw locks. Like, we love our screw locks now. We all want our screw locks so our spark shads never come off. And this is what we all love, right? The wire keeper, I'm convinced, was designed to manage Z-Man baits. And while they all keep your plastics on, and probably the screw lock is the most functional, Brennan's going to play off of what I say in a second here. But guys, there used to be an old ball head jig that I used to love that had that only a single barb on the top, and it's still out there. And I modified it, and I used to make 8th and 16th ounce ball head jigs to fish the river with all the time. And I'm telling you that, guys, hold on, Brennan. I'm going to show. Guys, I just want you to say, there's a beetle on the back end here, right? Brennan, am I supposed to pull on this? Yes?
Yeah, go for it.
It's the grass jig, right? This is not a show, guys. I'm just straight up showing you. Let's see if I can do this. You see how far I had to pull to get that thing off? All I'm saying, and I didn't want to ruin that bait because there's not a lot out there and I don't have any. I'm just making the point that I had to yank on that thing really to get that thing off. And I could tell you this, my comment is there is not a wire keeper that would have held that bait on that long with how I was pulling. There is a 2-point contact keeper system. I almost said wire because I'm so used to saying it. What, Brennan, talk about this a little bit and how this got built into the design of this, because when's the last time I almost said, I go, can I get that? I've been trying to put wire keepers in all these jigs and modifying myself now. And now I just want to drill out a little section to put a little lead keeper again like that, because these things are the real deal, man. They are the real deal.
No, and I guess just going back to the very beginning of this, you know, that jig was just designed to be simple, right? Just a simple approach. And I'm just like everybody, you know, I pour, everybody that's watching this show, not everybody, but a lot of you, pour your own tackle, you know, using do-it molds. And I'm just like the rest of you. If I can eliminate a step in my pouring process to speed things up, if I don't have to put a screw lock in it, if I don't have to put a wire keeper in it, and it speeds up my efficiency, if I can pour more because I don't have to deal with that step, I like it. Now, there's some things where I absolutely want the wire keeper. I want the screw lock. And in some cases, jigs too, but not with this one. I wanted something just super simple, super fast. Like I said, I'm a jig fisherman, you know, through and through. A lot of times the jig bites that I get on in the places that I fish, especially on the Mississippi River, when I can get on a jig bite, it's like, it can be every cast. You know what I mean? Like I catch fish, get one in the boat, throw it in the live well, you know, put a cold tag on it, throw it in the live well, and, you know, roll a cast right back out there, and I got another one on. The last thing I want to do is have to stop, thread a bait back on, or super glue a bait back on, which a lot of times I do, and I had to do. Not with this jig. I mean, you can just keep going, keep going, keep going. And one negative to this is when it rips a bait, it's done, right? Like you got to bite the head off of it and it becomes a little bit shorter, whatever. But you can keep going, and you can get a lot of baits out of this one, you know, just one use, and just continue to go and go and go. That's not a good example, Kuda. You ripped the hell out of that one. But
I did. I really shredded it. I yanked the hell out of that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what it is, guys? I just don't want to sit there and try and tell you something different than what I think. I mean, and I'll be honest with you, when that thing first came in the mail, Brennan, I tugged on that thing and I go, oh my gosh, I am shocked. I'm like, any normal amount of force, it's not coming off, man.
It holds up to a lot of fish. I guess to be quite honest, I've never like sat there and, you know, tried to add up how many fish I got off one, you know, trailer without tearing it, whatever. But I could tell you I've caught fish after fish after fish and not have to worry about destroying a trailer and threading another one back on. Again, the whole concept with this jig was simplicity, you know, utility, just one jig that you can lock in your hands. You can pour easily. You can catch a ton of fish. You don't have to worry about the trailer. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, what angler doesn't want that? Definitely not me. If I can simplify my approach on the water to just a handful of things, and I can make it more efficient for myself, that's more fish in the boat. That's less time dinking around, rigging baits, whatever the case may be, retying, rethreading on trailers. And, you know, that time adds up, and some of us don't have as much time on the water. So every minute we can spend out there is valuable.
You guys, listen, when I know a couple of people asked about some things we'll touch on too. So, one, if you guys want to ever go, and look at, I used to have my own little code that I would send you, but I have a new one that's for Jigsquad that is it's basically, there's a link down in the description that shows, it's basically a link to Do-It's page, and it takes you to the page so you could search for products and view things and look at things. And this isn't about purchasing things. It's just about tracking traffic that Jigsquad's able to generate and kind of send towards Do-It molds, just so they kind of know. And basically that. So whether you buy something or not, if you're looking at product ever, save it to your bookmarks, whatever you want to do. There's a lot of good Do It Molds ambassadors out there, and just like we want to make sure the Do It crew knows that like you're looking at stuff because we've talked about it. But I know a couple of you have asked about pre-orders, and so there's no pre-orders on Do It Mold's page, but there are other companies out there that are doing pre-orders, right, Brennan?
There is, yeah. And I'll be totally honest with you. We were making incredible progress with all of these new products. Our original intention was to actually have these available for purchase on our website on Tuesday, which is the first day at ICAST. What I will tell you in the fishing industry is most products that you see released at ICAST typically aren't even available till fall, sometimes winter.
Right.
So we were that far ahead, and just doing a fantastic job, working hard. We're still working hard. I don't want to tell you an exact date when
Sure.
we're going to be, launching these on our website. What I can tell you is that all of these are ready to go live. I make a phone call and they're live on the website in 5 minutes. I'm very hopeful, and I think it's realistic that Wednesday, Thursday of next week, at the latest, the following Monday, you click on Kuda's link here in the description and make a purchase, or click the link, you'll be able to make a purchase on any of these new products. So we're really close, really close.
Yeah, that's good info, Brennan. And so, guys, you are right, because usually it was like September. Sometimes it was August, sometimes it's September, but a lot of times it's the fall. And so, I don't know, guys. I think this grass jig is going to be lights out. I like the fact that I could fish it multiple different ways. I was a big fan of the poison jig for many years, but here's a great question. So, who said it? Trippy said it. So TJ says, what hooks are available for this mold? Great question.
Yeah, so the hybrid grass jig calls for a 30-degree 2X bass hook. So what that means is Victory 10886, a Mustad 32886. Those hooks are both going to fit in there great. It's a 30-degree hook, and it's a great hook. So you've got several options. Most of the hook manufacturers offer that exact same model, just their version of it. So tons of options for hooks, but 30-degree. And that was important to us for a couple of reasons. One, the swimming aspect. If you do choose to use this as a swim jig, between a 28 and a 30-degree, there's really not a better option for a swim jig. And something that I feel is often overlooked, most dragging jigs or bottom contact jigs in general on the market are either a 90 or most commonly a 60-degree. That 30-degree is good because it actually, it promotes it to drag even better. It doesn't want to come up hardly at all. So you can drag it and get in that nasty stuff where they live and keep dragging it through. And it's going to stay there on the bottom, much better than a 60 or 90-degree would, where you make a little pull and it actually wants to come up pretty easily. The 30-degree is not going to do that. It's going to continue to drag. So 30-degree was a win. That's what we felt the best hook angle was going to be for this jig. So that's what we did. And there's tons of hook options.
Yeah, I mean, hey guys, listen, and those two hooks, I mean, lights out. I'll tell you, and my only comment about the two, I mean, that Mustad hook is a stud hook, and I experimented last year. At the end of last year, I started experimenting with the Victory hook. And like I said, I mean, you guys saw, if you guys have heard me make comments before, that I switched over to some of the Victory hooks this year because I wanted to get some time behind them a little bit too. But I poured all my Midwest Finesse jigs in the Victory hook that 375. What's it end in?
105.75.
Yeah, 105.75. I kind of like it. I like the hook. I switched over this year because I wanted to use them exclusively. So and in my ball heads, in my smaller ball head sizes. So I messed around with different hooks, but I'm telling you, that Victory hook for this jig that thing is lights out. So it's a stout hook. And the reason I like it too is I would fish both of those hooks in salt water. And I kind of like, let me make you big here, Brennan.
Yeah, so that's that 108.86 by Victory right there. That's a 5/0. And this mold actually, it calls for a 3/0 through 5/0, and you can use that 3/0 through 5/0 across all sizes. So if you want to put the 3/0 in the 5/8, you can. If you want to put the 5/0 in the 3/8, you can. So you can use any one of those sizes, 3/0 through 5/0 in any cavity, which is pretty sweet.
I know this isn't normal for all you bass heads in chat, but the reason I kind of like this jig is another application. You guys know me. This is my jam. I think about these things. I'm kind of excited to pour this jig. A lot of it's because of the hook keeper, to be honest with you. But I want to pour that jig without the weed guard and actually tie some hair onto it for a trip next summer, hopefully to Central America. So I'm excited about this jig. It's pretty cool. I mean, that hook keeper, guys, that's my favorite part of this whole jig. All the other parts I could fit and function, make work. But it's just we're kind of lucky that it's one that's the hook that's being used. Just the little features. I like the diversity of the jig, and a lot of people have had a lot of good feedback on this, and so I'm interested to see how this thing goes. But anyway,
yeah, based on the demand that we've seen so far, this is probably the #1 mold for us right now out of all the new products. Lead and soft bait. This is leading the pack right now. So we did something right.
Awesome. I mean, I think people like the multi-use, right?
Yeah.
Everyone likes the specificity for certain techniques and lures and things like that. But when you can, I mean, this is my dream type of jig that I can use wherever the heck I need it, right? And so I like it. So, and I'll tell you what, one more thing, just for the tires out there, for the people that tie skirts, if you're using silicone, I mean, you can make a lot of things work with silicone skirts, but the fact that there's a little tying area, if you're tying any hybrid style jigs, or more importantly, bucktail or hair jigs, it's got enough of that little collar for a little bit of a bump to create a little flare.
Yep. Trippy. A silicone collar slides right over those keepers too, by the way. It comes right over them, no problem. So for people that just want to use the silicone collars, they slide right over.
Beautiful. And so Trippy, I think it's 3/8, half, 5/8, and 3/4. Is that right, Brennan? Did I get the 5/8 right?
Let me confirm, but yes, that 3/8, half, 5/8, and 3/4. And without being too forward, don't be surprised if there's a smaller one of this same concept available someday. Hint.
Matt Luna. If Luna, if you're still in here, bro, I should scroll back up to your comment at one point in time. Like that's Matt threw that out earlier. I remembered his comment when he said that, but what a great jig. And I think it just adds a little diversity. So listen, so guys, a couple other things, right? So we're Jig Squad, but we talk about, this is the Do It Molds release special tonight, right? So and the other products that they have. And I wanted to make sure that we at least talked a little bit about a couple other things that are coming out from Do It right now besides these things, because eyes always excite me. I love eyes. You guys know I'm a big fan of the freestyle mold in those jigs. So whenever new eyes come out, I always like eyes. But there's some new eyes coming out, and then a couple other products. So Brennan, you want to mention some of the other things coming out here soon?
Yep. So our Hyper HD line of 3D eyes has been really popular. They're doing really well. That's something that we came onto the scene with last year, actually, was developing a line of just all eyes in general. We've got your, chartreuse, red, silver prism, pearl prism, whatever, the basic ones, right, that people have been using for years. We've got those. But what we wanted to do was also offer kind of these wild eyes too that we call our attack series. So just kind of some crazy off the wall, fun, flash, whatever. Got those two. But what's really done well for us is people that want to imitate a specific forage base, and they do that with our Hyper HD line. So we've got several bluegill imitators. We've got shad, shiner. I mean, just the full spectrum, perch, bluegill, like I said. What we did this year was develop a frog imitator that we call King Kermit, and a trout eye that looks just like a rainbow or brown trout eye. Nice. That we call Tactical Trout. So I've got some samples around here, but just know that it's a trout imitator and a frog imitator. I personally have used the frog imitator for gobies too, up on the Great Lakes, and I've had some success with that too. So that's the thing, is like there's similarities between a lot of them, but
guys, one eye, it's hard to see. I don't know. I don't know. Is that the one that I had in the? People are asking me about the greenish colored, blue and greenish colored eye that was in. Maybe it was the thumbnail for YouTube. What eye it is? Brennan can answer this, but Brennan, I'm fairly certain that that's the Cosmos eye. Is that correct?
It's called Cosmic. Yep.
Cosmic. Okay.
Yep, Cosmic, and it's in our Attack series eyes. You can find those on our website and in our catalog. They're available in 4 sizes that you would need for any do-it mold that calls for a recessed eye, lead, and soft bait. But that's our Cosmic series. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I love the color, guys, and so if like you put it on like a green pumpkin head, it almost takes on like a little bit more of a greenish yellow type of iridescence within it. On black, it comes out like a deep, like a two-tone green and blue. It's a super cool eye. So I kind of like it. That's already out. But anyway, okay. So eyes are coming out. What else do we have coming?
Yeah. So another segment that we entered last year, and we had dabbled in it before, but last year we really took it seriously and we're super thorough with it. And that's our crank blank line assortment. And what these are blank hard baits. And what we did was actually developed our own this year. So we picked 5 shapes that we wanted to target that we felt were some higher end baits that people hadn't had access to previously. So some higher end crankbaits that you can buy that are blank, right? That you airbrush yourself. This is one of them. I actually just painted this one up yesterday. This is pretty sweet. So it's got a circuit board lip, awesome profile, pretty good knock. So this is one of them here. And like I said, this is one I airbrushed yesterday. This is the Solar Shad Eye, just a craw imitation bait. It's pretty sick. That's one of them, one new shape for this year in our crank blank line. These are all prototypes from testing a long time ago. So I actually shipped all of the samples themselves to ICAST. So from what I'm showing you here, these are all prototypes that we tested a long time ago. So these are going to be clear. So these ones moving forward, they're not actually this, white plastic. These are just prototypes. They're clear. What I want to show you, if I can find one here, here's a legitimate one. Never mind. I do have some real ones. I don't know how well you can see it, but you see that honeycomb in there?
Oh boy.
That's something that we did this year. We did this with all 5 new models that we developed ourselves. We added that honeycomb. Provides a little bit rigidity to the bait itself, so it's a little bit stronger. It's also cool looking.
It's cool. We love cool looking. We're bait makers.
Right, for sure. So this is one of them too. Top water. Here is another, what's going to be really, really popular. Coffin circuit board lip.
Oh, look at that. Ooh, I like the body on that.
Yeah, it's a sweet profile. Still got a little bit of watermelon bait blast on my finger there. Sorry about that. There's another one.
Very cool.
And then I got 2 more. Here's another. You recognize that profile, anybody that cranks a lot. But again, that same octagonal honeycomb structure inside. Pretty cool.
Nice.
And then lastly, a lipless. So these are going to be available. They just landed in the port of LA. So as long as the truckers don't go on strike, we should have them here within the next 2 weeks. So keep an eye
Those
out.
look great. Is the honeycombing, Matt was asking about, yeah, there's honeycombing, but is the honeycombing inside or is it on the outside texture?
It is internal. It's
Oh
all
my
inside.
God, this is
Yep.
awesome.
It's all inside. And it legitimately does offer something to the integrity, the structure of the bait. It does strengthen it. But I'm not gonna lie, it does look cool too.
So that leads me into see, I'll try a transition again here as well, Brennan. So in addition to that, you guys also have something else coming out that's going to help that honeycomb look even better. And you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we collaborated with Component Systems, which most people on here in the stream and chat right now are familiar with ProTech powder paints. You know, it's no question the leader in powder paint. And what Component Systems does too is they literally supply most of the fishing industry with the paints that you see on jigs too. So most of the hard bait or most of the lead, jig, whatever the case may be that you're purchasing from a commercial manufacturer, I'm not going to name names, but think of one and it's got ProTech on it. They're using ProTech powder paint just like you guys. What Component Systems did, what we did with them was develop a line of airbrush paints called Bait Blast, which is specifically for painting your own baits. These are specific colors that you would want that you don't have, they don't require any pre-mixing, no thinning, anything like that. You can just pour them in your airbrush and start painting, and they're fishing specific colors. You know what I'm saying? So, there's other manufacturers out there, other brands that offer airbrush paints, no question. And some of them are great colors for fishing, but these are specifically for fishing. So you don't have to worry about dialing in, this color, this color, this color to make the color that you want. We just
mixing. Yep. Right.
Yep. We just made it. So, and that's what this is. This is painted with all Bait Blast. That's a Do It crank blank. That's a Do It 3D eye. Literally everything I, made with this bait was yesterday here at Do It, and I didn't pick up or use anything that wasn't from Do It, which is pretty cool.
Nice. That's pretty cool. And I mean, like you said, there's different crank bait, blank options out there, but it's cool to kind of see this as another option to what you guys came out with last year too. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Nice.
Yeah.
And what about any other are there any new paints coming out? Anything in that world?
There is, yeah. So aside from the Bait Blast that Component Systems is bringing to the market this year, and by the way, the 6 colors that they're releasing this year for Bait Blast are transparent colors.
Nice.
So it's kind of further rounding out that line of Bait Blast. Before there was a primary segment,
iridescent, pearl.
Yep.
Right.
Now there's a transparent, which is pretty cool to see.
Nice.
And some really, really good colors too, by the way. New ProTech colors though this year, there is Tilapia, and I don't know that I have any samples here because I shipped them all to ICAST last week. They're sitting down in Florida waiting for me to unpack them. But there's a Tilapia, which is kind of this like smoke color, like a transparent smoke color, I guess you could say, with blue and gold flake. It's an awesome swim jig color.
Does it look more goldish or more like chartreuse?
I would say it's more gold.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, and it's an awesome
blue and gold. Dark blue or like a medium blue?
I believe the color that was used in it is Canadian blue, and when it comes through that smoke color, it's a little bit darker.
That's awesome though.
Yeah, it's just a good gill imitator. In all honesty, I use it quite a bit on my swim jigs. It's a sweet color. Use it on swim bait heads, things like that. Skimpy. Yep. He's here saying PB&J, and that is true. PB&J, which I would suspect is going to be one of the better sellers. Awesome color. I wish I had one here to show you because it's pretty sweet. Maybe I do. I lied. It's right here. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it, but there's a PB&J. Yeah, you can't see it very good, but
no,
it's a darker pumpkin brown with black and just the right amount of purple flake in it. Awesome jig color. You know, anytime you're on bottom trying to imitate a craw, it's a pretty sweet color. There's a katana craw finesse jig right there with PB&J.
A classic color, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then lastly would be sprayed grass, which
this is the one that I'm most excited about.
And this is the one we're probably SOL on because I don't think I have a.
Oh God, you know, it reminds me of like Go Time, except instead of blue with like green, like a bright green.
Yeah, no, it's a super cool color. It's like a watermelon, a transparent watermelon base. It's got blue, hollow blue, lime, and light purple flake in it. And it's just anytime you're around grass, I mean, it's a phenomenal panfish imitating color. And that one's going to be super popular too. I got a feeling. So
sprayed grass, sprayed grass, watermelon candy, anything in that world is a phenomenal color. One of my favorite plastic colors of all time, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, Component Systems has got some hard hitting colors coming out this year at ICAST. And then, you know, they had Bruise Gill, Bama Craw, and Go Time, which Go Time's like, I mean, that's if I'm using a green pumpkin base, that's all I use anymore, if I'm being honest. That's a phenomenal one too. But
you know, you're the second person in the last month that I've heard say that they don't even go GP anymore. They go straight to sprayed grass. I won't say who that person is, but I just, for certain reasons, but
there's Go Time if you can see it at all, which you can't, but
no, it's awesome. It's a great color.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty sweet. So between Go Time and Magic Craw Blue, that's I mean, you can see that Magic Craw Blue come through right there. If I'm trying to imitate a panfish, these are the two colors I use anymore.
The Magic Craw Blue is on this jig here that you sent.
Yeah, it's sweet.
It's a great color. I personally, you know, not to go back to the ones that came out just before that, but I was a big fan of the smoke purple.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually like making smoke purples on the Weedless Neds. And then the one that was what was the one that was like reddish? Plum.
Oh yeah.
Plum. This plum color, guys, I don't know if you've ever tried plum, but for the Protect colors, I when I first got it, I was like, I'm looking at it and I go, I'm not throwing this color. It looks like the powder looks like it's muted pink, right? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. So I wasn't too quick to pour them when I first got it, right? And then somebody said to me, like, you didn't pour them yet? And I'm like, no. And then I did, and I go, oh my God, it's like this candy apple red. I would call it like a transparent candy apple red with like red highlights, blue highlights in there, or glitter. Is it red and blue? Is that what's in there?
It is garnet and Canadian blue.
Oh my gosh, it is beautiful.
It is.
It's a beautiful color. I don't make enough of that color, but I mean, if I wanted something other than the standards, like something different, like I could see. I actually, you know what, you just gave me an idea. I think this winter I'm going to make some in that plum color that are going to sit right next to my chartreuse jig heads. It's going to be like my other version of my unique jig that I'll throw periodically.
Yeah, I no joke. I caught my personal best Iowa bag last week, and I won't lie, 3 of the fish came on a 10-inch plum worm, but the other 2 came on a plum jig, which I've never thrown a plum jig ever. And it's summer, water's 80 degrees. You know, the plum worm's on fire. Why not try a plum jig? And it was a hybrid grass jig.
Oh my God.
in plum, and it was pretty sweet. But
You
this,
know,
go ahead.
what you got? No, go ahead.
No, this is something that actually I was inspired by Debo on, our boy Debo.
Yeah.
So
Good
this
old
is something
Debo.
I don't remember what it was. I watched a video. Gosh, it was when the Bama Craw and Go Time were released.
Okay.
And he did this thing where he, must have dipped the jig in Bama Craw and then came over the top in Go Time. So I tried it.
Really?
Yeah, and I know it's terrible image quality and you probably can't get a good sense, but I mean it's a phenomenal gill imitator, and I've been doing that a lot and been catching them good on it. Just looks just like a bluegill.
So it's Bama, the whole head's dipped in Bama Craw and then Go Time on top.
Yep, that's correct.
Interesting. I'm gonna try a few like that.
Yeah, it's sweet. It's I don't know. I can't picture like a better bluegill imitator if you're trying to match a bluegill specifically, right? Like not a flash colored, nothing, as an accent head or something. If you just want to make it look like a bluegill, I don't know that there's a better way to do it than this one right here.
Yeah.
Trick out of the Debo book.
Brennan, do you know, I would make a guess if I answered this question by fishing the Southeast. He's wanting to get another lead pot for whatever, wood and resin baits. He goes, what's the difference between the Lee 110 and the Lee 220 volt? I thought that the 220 is just for a larger sized pot and more volume. Actually, it just depends on your power source. I hate to tell you the wrong thing here, because if you go boom, brother, it ain't on Jigsquad. Do you know?
Yeah. So a 220 volt melter, you're correct. It's based on the power source. So typically a 220 volt melter would be like, we sell a lot of them to European countries where you literally have to wire. There you go, Gramps, you're on it. Where you literally have to like wire it into your wall. So a 110 volt, you see these outlets here behind me, like you guys all have in your homes. The 110 will plug right in. It's got the two prongs in the ground, plug it right in.
There you go.
The 220, if you buy a 220 volt melter, it's not going to have that adapter or that plug on the end. It's just going to be two wires. And you're going to be puzzled when you get it and it ships to your house. You open the box, you're like, what the hell? How do I plug this into my wall? You got a 220 volt. So if you live in America, get the 110.
There you go.
That's it.
There you go. I do 220 is more than 110, so I was kind of right. It's more power.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
God, we all got the right.
We're set up for 110 here in America. There
you go. Brennan, I'm super excited for the stuff coming out here. I think you guys, so you're leaving for ICAST here and soon, right?
Yep, fly out Sunday morning bright and early and come back on Saturday. And it's going to be a busy show. I'm hoping. Its schedule's already pretty well booked up. Lots of meetings. We got a press conference going on. We've entered the hybrid grass jig, the Bushy Beetle, and the Katana Craw new product showcase, and we're hoping to come home with some hardware. So we'll see what happens. So ICAST actually just this last year created a custom tackle category. Before all of Do-It's products, we were forced to enter into terminal tackle, where we're competing against hooks and swivels and all sorts of stuff that just it's hard to compare our product assortment to hook, right? Like it's totally different. This year there's a new product showcase category intended for custom tackle, and there's quite a bit of stuff entered into it, of course.
Sure.
But I'm hopeful that we take it home. So I got a good feeling.
Awesome, man. I'm super excited for you guys next week. I'm excited for the jig makers of the world to get their hands on some of these new products. You guys already saw, I have the Weedless, I showed it to you earlier. I have the Weedless, the new Weedless Midwest Finesse. I do not have the Grass Jig mold, and I'm super excited.
Coming soon. Don't worry.
I know. I'm super excited to get my hands on it. And I'm just excited to have some more fun toys to play with and to talk about and to make. And I will say, Brennan, I've always appreciated the fact that you're willing to be supportive and do stuff for the show. It was kind of cool. I said earlier, so many of my good friends have been run through chat. Debo, Gramps, you missed it, buddy. I was talking about the new Weedless Midwest Finesse, the bigger jig. And I was talking how I'm so excited to to use it for you know, on stupid tubes. And I said, Gramps, and I mentioned you, and I said Gramps would be excited about me talking about this. But so many great people in chat. You guys, I just want to throw this out here. We're gonna get out of here in a sec, but I just want to say, do me a favor, pass the streams on. It's gonna be every other week when we do the streams. I'll make mention of next week's guest because we're not skipping a week now because this is the special show. But pass the shows on. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. If you can't watch the show on YouTube, then you could go on the Tackle Making Podcast by Jig Squad on any of your podcasting platforms and listen in the car. So there's multiple ways that you can be part of the Jig Squad experience. But the thing is, our community is supposed to be about improving our experience, the industry as a whole, and what we do. So whether you're listening on podcast platform or not, I appreciate you guys. Next week, I'm super excited to bring on Mr. West Coast himself. There's a couple West Coast guys in there. Mr. Luna, we're going to have a conversation, buddy. I'd like to get you on the show in time here, buddy. But that guy Skimpy is going to be joining us next Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central Time, our standard time. And we are going to be talking about making jigs and doing some cool stuff. So, you know what, Brennan, this is like a double win.
All right.
Because hold on, let me just highlight. Did you see the comment?
Oh, look at that.
See, this is a win.
Wow.
This is a win.
That is a win. We got a caring wife right there.
Mr. Chapman did great tonight. So you guys, I appreciate you all tremendously. Brennan, thanks for being a friend of the show. We appreciate it tremendously. And you know, I'm hopeful that we have more conversations in the future. I'll probably be talking about getting you on again this later in the fall or this winter. And I wish you guys a lot of luck at ICAST this coming week. And we're hoping we bring home a couple of trophies, right, buddy?
Dude, we're gonna bring home something. I'm gonna be a little salty if we don't, but that's all right. It's means we just got to go back next year with something stronger. So yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you being part of the team, being, you know, supportive. Thanks, guys. Like he was saying, if you can share, I'm sure it's only going to help him out. Share the video, spread the word. If you're interested in any of these new products, be sure to use this guy's link. Let him know that, you know, let us know that he sent you. It'd be appreciated from both of us. So
just put hashtag Jig Squad on everything you do.
Yeah. Hashtag Jig Squad for everything.
Every order. It doesn't matter where you order from. Just in the notes section, just put hashtag Jig Squad, and people are going to start laughing like, what is going on? There's a lot of people using the Jig Squad hashtag now. Ironically enough, people that don't even come on the shows or don't even subscribe on the Instagram channel. So, you know, listen, guys, we're a makeshift bunch of jig makers, and we're going to tear it up. And that's what this industry is all about. So, guys, I appreciate you tremendously. Please join us next week with that guy Skimpy. Brennan, thank you very much, guys. Peace. We're out of here.
Thanks, guys.